I've spent the last few years working for one of the largest shockwave clinics in North America, and I've learned a thing or two about the power and untapped potential of regenerative medicine. But the march towards a future where sickness is healed from its root cause is challenged by the influence of big pharma and their deep pockets. So now we're forced to answer questions like, how do we get rid of joint pain, take back our performance in the bedroom, and heal diseases from the inside out without band-aid medications or negative side effects? This show will give you the answers. Follow along as I interview the world's top experts and doctors and how they transform their lives and their patients' lives using the newest advances in biotechnology. I'm your host, Austin James Wolfe, and you're listening to Modern Biotech Radio. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Modern Biotech Radio. Today, I'm joined by Drew Manning. He wrote the book Fit to Fat to Fit. He's got a great story, and I'm really excited to have you here on the show, man. Thanks for hopping on.
Austin, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Okay. So, give me the cliff notes of your origin story. Some of our listeners have heard of you, some haven't. So give me like the 2-minute version of it.
Sure. So most people know me as the Fit to Fat to Fit guy. Some people don't even know my name's Drew, which is funny. But so back in 2011, I did this crazy experiment as a personal trainer and someone who had grown up, my entire life in shape, never been overweight. I decided to get fat on purpose to see if it would give me a better understanding of my clients and what they were going through, because I felt like I didn't understand them and why it was so hard for them just to live a healthy lifestyle. So what I did was 6 months, I stopped exercising and I ate an unrestricted diet. Now, what I focused on instead of Morgan Spurlock did in Supersize Me, he focused a lot on fast food and McDonald's, right? I focused on highly processed foods that a lot of us here in America grew up on, and sugary cereals, juices, granola bars, chips, cookies, crackers, like all the highly processed foods that are affordable, convenient, and they taste really, really good. Like for me, it was Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That was my jam.
I was going to ask, what was your favorite food when you're going through this?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Mountain Dew, like those things I could just eat all day long because they were so like snacky and like it's just so convenient. And like I would have it sometimes twice a day or 3 times if I was really lazy. And it tasted really good. So I put on 75 pounds of pure fat in 6 months, which was unbelievable. It was my first time being overweight. It was truly humbling. And what it taught me is that transformation is way more mental and emotional than people think. Mm-hmm. And the emotional connection to food is way more powerful than I ever imagined it would be, right? I just thought people lacked willpower to just have that discipline. Like, hey, just do it. Like, put down the junk food. It's not that hard. And then here I am doing this on purpose for 6 months. And it really opened up my eyes to just how powerful that emotional connection to food really is and how trapped and the vicious cycle that it creates. So it was really humbling, learned a lot of valuable lessons, wrote a book about it. Luckily lost the weight. So that's why it's called Fit to Fat to Fit.
Right.
And, was fortunate enough to get my body back, but with a whole new perspective, whole new understanding, more empathy for those that struggle with weight loss and transformation, more respect and a better understanding of what they go through. So then I could help people more so on the mental and emotional side now having done this journey. So Fit to Fat to Fit kind of became this household name, this brand where I wrote a book, became a New York Times bestseller. The book turned into a TV show on A&E where we put other trainers through this process to teach them empathy. And we had 2 seasons of that. And then I recently, about a year ago, I wrote a book called Complete Keto. So I got into the keto space. And that's kind of me in a nutshell.
I love it, man. So let me ask you this. You were a trainer before, and then you decided to gain all this weight to truly understand your clients. Mm-hmm. But what was the moment when you decided that you had to gain the weight? What was that moment? What led you to that moment?
It was one of my clients was my ex-brother-in-law, and I was training him, and I would get so frustrated because at family events, I would see him, and he would be partaking of the pizza and the donuts and the ice cream. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're not supposed to be eating that. Like, I'm your trainer. I'm putting you on this plan. And he's like, dude, you don't get it. You don't understand. Like, I want to enjoy these things and have these foods and enjoy family time. But I'm like, okay, well, how are you going to get results? And he's like, dude, you just don't understand how hard it is. Like, it's really hard for me. For you, it's been easy your whole life. Yeah. And when he kind of said that to me, I'm like, you know what? You're right. Like, I need to listen to you, and maybe there's something I need to learn. And so that was where I started searching for ideas. Like, what can I do? And it was weird. It was like a light bulb moment where the thought just entered my mind. I don't even know where it came from. It just entered my mind. I'm like, whoa, what if I did this? And everyone I asked gave me good feedback. Like, oh my gosh, you should totally do that. That'd be crazy. And no one had ever really done it before on purpose, at least, unless like some famous actors that got paid millions of dollars to do a role. But this was different. So anyways, that was kind of where it came from.
I love it. And when you gained the weight and you were going to start losing the weight again, what was going on mentally for you there? Were you sort of getting, I guess, mentally accustomed to comforting yourself with this food? How did you shift your mentality, when you started to cut the weight again?
There was an interesting time where I went on Dr. Oz after the Dr. Oz show was like a few days away from transitioning back to fit.
Right.
And his episode when I was on it really opened up my eyes just how scary this could be. Like, what if I'm stuck like this? And I had doubts. I had those doubts enter my mind, those negative thoughts. And I'm like, what did I do to myself? Like, what if I'm stuck here forever? And I really had doubts, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I had these fears, and these negative self-talk happened to me. But for me, the thing that kept me going, that really shifted my mindset, was knowing that there were thousands of people out there doing this journey with me. Because the way I set it up was like, hey, we are doing this together. Like, I'm going to be doing this, of course, but like, here's exactly what I eat every day. Here's my workouts. Like, I'm putting it out there for free. Why not do this together? You're like trying to create a movement. And so thousands of people from all over the world joined me on the journey back to fit. So I was like, well, for me, I know it's going to be hard, but if these people can do it, I can do it too. And that was the interesting thing for me was transitioning back to fit. I thought would just be like this, easy switch, cold turkey one day, mac and cheese, the next day spinach and smoothies and like kale and broccoli, like all these things. And it sucked really, really bad. Like, it was so hard those first 2 weeks. I felt like, and this is so interesting, but I felt like I was addicted to these foods, and my body was fighting back. My body went through these withdrawal symptoms that I've never experienced before. And that's where my eyes were opened, that this is what my clients have been going through. When I would give them a meal plan and say, hey, okay, now you're going to follow this and be perfect at it, they would struggle because their body fights back. It wants the high that it got from those foods.
Right.
For me, I only did it for 6 months. Imagine your typical client that's been living that way for 6 years or 6 decades, who knows, to all of a sudden switch and try and be perfect. Your body, is accustomed to those foods, the palatability of those foods, and the addiction. And it really opened my eyes to just how hard it was to make that switch, even for me as a trainer and someone that lived a healthy lifestyle.
I was going to say, what out of this whole journey, do you remember the hardest moment? Like the one moment that was the hardest?
There was two, and one was gaining weight and one was losing weight. One was, I remember my daughter was 2 at the time, and I came home from work because I still had a full-time job in the medical field during this time. No one really knows that, but I was still working full-time as I was doing Fit to Fit. So I came home from work exhausted. My 2-year-old daughter has tons of energy. She wants to play with me because daddy's been gone all day. And, I'm overweight. I'm trying to chase her around the house, which is the game she wanted to play. Is like, hey, just chase me for hours. And I told her I needed to take a break after a couple minutes because I was winded. Chafing became an issue. It was very uncomfortable. Yeah. So I sat down on the couch and she's like, Daddy, come play with me. And I said, I can't. I'm so tired. And she just didn't understand. Right. And so for her, broke my heart to see her. She started crying, and she just wanted her dad to play with her. She didn't care about my size, my weight. Right. And in that moment, it really hit me, how many millions of people out there can't play with their kids or their grandkids, not so much because of their weight, but because of their health.
Right.
And how bad that must hurt inside to be like, man, I can't even play with my kid because I'm so out of shape and I'm so unhealthy. And that's where I realized that this was becoming way more of a mental and emotional journey. And I could empathize more with those people that struggle instead of judging them. Like, hey, stop being lazy. What's wrong with you? This really opened up my eyes to just how much of transformation is mental and emotional. And then the journey back to fit, it was going back into the gym. So the first 30 days after I went back to fit, I actually skipped exercise completely. I wanted to show people the power of nutrition. So I skipped exercise, just changed my diet. But eventually I had to go back into the gym, right? And that was very, very nerve-wracking for me because I was still overweight. I lost a few pounds the first month, like 20 pounds, but still really uncomfortable in my own skin because my identity was based on my body. Right. I was Drew the fit guy my whole life, my entire life. And now I was like, who am I without the six pack and the muscles? Like, I just felt so uncomfortable. I kind of freaked out a little bit. I remember wanting to go up to strangers and explain to them like, hey, this is just an experiment. I don't really look this way normally. Here's my before picture. Go to this website. It'll explain everything. Like, I wanted to tell strangers that because I was so uncomfortable. Yeah. But anyways, going back into the gym was really, really nerve wracking because I felt like I was going to be judged. And I don't know if people were judging me or not, but it was really humbling for me to go through that so that I could kind of experience what it's like for my clients.
Right. When you take your clients through this journey, what lesson did you learn along the way that you've now been able to, I guess now that you've gone through this journey, how did you help your clients afterwards?
Yeah. For me, there was a heavy focus before I did this on the physical side of transformation, macros, calories, workouts, supplements, all those things that we know are important to lose weight. And that's what people think they need to do in order to transform. When in reality, people have that knowledge. The knowledge is there. Just go to Google, type in how to do keto, how to count your macros, how to do this workout or whatever. The information is there. If people, in my opinion, struggle more so on the mental and emotional side. So the emotional connection is to food. We eat our emotions. When we're sad, we binge. When we're happy, we celebrate, and we eat unhealthy food usually. There's a million reasons or excuses to give in. Like, oh, it's Friday and the team's bringing in donuts today, or it's Saturday and we're going for a run that we're eating pizza and drinking drinks with our friends Saturday night. And there's just so many excuses in our society. And so what I realize and what I can now empathize with is helping people on the mental and emotional side more so than the physical side. Right. So that's kind of what all my programs and my books now are geared towards. It's like, hey, here's the physical stuff. Yes, this will help you lose weight, get a six pack, but let's shift our focus and help you on the mental and emotional side so that this becomes a lifestyle change instead of just another diet. Right.
Okay. I was going to ask about the social part of it. That's probably been my biggest challenge is, all these, when I was in college, all my friends were eating, barbecue wings and Taco Bell and stuff like that. And I try to stay away from it. Taco Bell had a salad. So I would eat that. Probably not the best thing, but as far as the socializing goes, the social aspect of it, what do you tell your clients, when they're going out and they're hanging out with friends or family, and the friends or family aren't on the same plan that they are? How do they overcome that?
That's a good question. So I tell each client, everyone has their own happy balance, right? We all think, hey, I want to be 5% body fat and look like this guy on Instagram. But will you be happier living that lifestyle? To get there, you're going to have to sacrifice social events. You're going to have to sacrifice certain foods that you enjoy. You're going to be that person with a Tupperware container at the restaurant with chicken and broccoli while everyone's eating brownies and wings. Like, that's cool. Is that your happy balance? Like, do you want that to get 5% body fat? For some people, they can, but then they realize to maintain that is not a lifestyle that they want to live forever. Right. And so let's find what your happy balance is. Is it maybe 15% body fat or 20% body fat? And maybe you won't have the ideal body that you want, but you're also happy in your social setting. So everyone's got their own happy balance. And I help them figure that out. Like, all right, I know you say you want 10% body fat, but here's what it's going to require. Are you willing to sacrifice that much? And is that going to be a sustainable lifestyle for you? Like maybe you can get there and be like, all right, I did it. And then go back to like a different happy balance. And we all go through, hills and valleys in life where we're like, okay, this time I'm going to be really lean this year, or I have a goal I'm going to set. I'm going to run a marathon. And then there's going to be times where I'm like, hey, I'm going to focus on bulking up and change my body and put on muscle mass. So there's going to be ebbs and flows throughout life. And you got to realize, okay, what is your happy balance? Because to stay there, you have to, there's going to be some sacrifices.
Yeah, for sure. I saw on Instagram that you had a goal, or you were doing some sort of running challenge, I think. Tell me more about that.
So I'm not a runner. I've never ran a marathon or half marathon in my life, but I decided last year to attempt a 100-mile race.
Oh, wow.
And with my brother, with just about 1 month of training. And that was after reading a book called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Right. If you read that book, you'll be so motivated. You're like, man, I am like I should be doing way more. So I attempted it and I didn't accomplish 100 miles, but I got 80 miles. And I was like, well, with 1 month of training, that's not too bad. Like, what if I train for 6 months? So this year I've been pushing really hard to train as a runner. And, here coming up in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to attempt this again with more training and more help from professionals to accomplish a 100-mile race in 24 hours. So knock on wood, let's hope this year goes better than last year.
Yeah. Run, Forrest, run. That's awesome. Yeah. How does keto actually work?
Yeah, good question. So keto is actually, a lot of people think it's a fad diet that's new.
Right.
It's been around since the beginning of time, if you think about it. So keto is our body's backup system when we run out of food. If we didn't have this backup system, our species would never have evolved, because we didn't always have access to grocery stores and Uber Eats and restaurants, and fast food places where anytime you're hungry, here in America at least, you could go and get food, right? Wherever you want. So it's our body's backup system when we run out of food. So you can survive days, weeks, sometimes even months, depending on how much fat stores you have, and you live off of your own fat. And that's how keto works in a nutshell. But there's two ways to get into ketosis. One is to starve yourself, right? Mm-hmm. If every human on the planet right now stopped eating, within 2 or 3 days, we'd all be in a state of ketosis, because that's what our bodies were designed to do.
Right.
But that's not always fun, like to starve yourself, right? So the second way to do that is to eat a keto diet, which hacks that, but you're able to eat food. So what you're doing is you're eating high fat, moderate protein, very low carb, and then that forces your body to produce an alternative fuel source to our main source of fuel, which is glucose, which comes from carbs. And what happens is our body switches over to a different fuel source where it breaks down fatty acids in the liver and converts them to ketones, right? And these ketones are the alternative fuel source to glucose. So think of it as diesel and regular gasoline. Mm-hmm. Our bodies could go off of either or whenever we choose. So it's just, you're shifting fuel sources from a sugar burner, which is mostly carbs, to becoming a fat burner in ketosis.
I love it. Okay, now I've been seeing a lot of things about beta hydroxybutyrate. I've never done my own research on it, but can you give I guess, a brief overview of what beta hydroxybutyrate actually is?
You can just say BHB. People call it BHB. Yeah. So I first learned about it from Tim Ferriss, interviewed a guy named Dr. Dominic D'Agostino. And if you want to learn more about BHBs and the science behind it, like actual real research being done, follow his work. And so his whole research came from, is funded by the Department of Defense, where he would help Navy SEALs get into a deep state of ketosis, because being in a state of ketosis actually it was discovered in the 1920s to help epilepsy or seizures, control your seizures, because it provides a neuroprotective benefit for your brain. When your blood ketone levels are elevated, so when you're in ketosis, your blood ketone levels are elevated and your glucose is lowered because you're eating a low carb, high fat diet, and your ketones are up, your glucose goes down. And it provides a neuroprotective benefit for your brain. So that's kind of where he first started researching these BHB, because the BHBs, what it does is, instead of fasting for 2 days and getting into ketosis, these Navy SEALs could drink the BHBs like a drink that's ready to go. And within 20 minutes, it is as if they had been fasting for a day or two.
Holy
Does that
shit.
make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were able to, get into a deep state of ketosis by just taking this BHB supplement.
Yeah. Wow.
So anyways, it's a really cool hack. Now, it is not the same as nutritional ketosis, where your body's burning fat as energy. So I do want to make a distinction. Mm-hmm. Just because you're taking BHBs and your blood ketones elevate doesn't mean you're going to burn more fat. Doesn't mean you're going to lose fat quicker. It just means that your blood ketones are elevated. So what you'll get is a improvement in mental clarity and focus for your brain. Your appetite is suppressed and your glucose is really low. So no insulin spikes. So that's why it's great for diabetics and people that are trying to lower their insulin.
Right. Do you have a specific BHB brand that you recommend?
Well, I'm a little bit biased. I have my own brand. It's called Complete Wellness, and it's called BHB. It's called BHB. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. I've tested all of them. I've worked with a lot of companies in the past before I developed my own line of supplements. Complete Wellness, my line, is affordable. It tastes really good. They all work, right? They all work. Some you might get a bump in 0.5 or 0.7 millimoles if you tested your blood ketones. Some of them you might get up as high as like 1.0. So those are all ketone salts.
Right.
Those are a little bit more affordable. There's something called ketone esters. Now, ketone esters will give you a bump in like 3.0 to 5.0 millimoles, which is unbelievable. That's like, if you had fasted for 7 days, you would get that much bump. But they're really expensive and they taste awful. They taste like jet fuel. They don't taste good, but they are a little bit more effective as far as getting your blood ketones elevated even higher, but they're going to be way more expensive and they taste awful. Whereas the BHBs, smaller bump, more affordable, and taste better.
Right. How long can someone stay in ketosis?
You mean just in general, or like?
yeah, in general. Okay, so let's say someone wanted to go on the keto diet. Mm-hmm. Is this like a forever thing? How long should they stay on it?
So I'm a big believer that humans were meant to be metabolically flexible. So that means we can be good at running off glucose or running off ketones. So if you think about it from an ancestral perspective, there was times where our ancestors only had access to animals, right? During the wintertime, there was no fruits or vegetables available. So what did they eat? There was mostly animal meats. And
Right.
most likely they're in a state of ketosis, fasting, finding food, hunting, eating animal products only, right? You're going to be in a state of ketosis because there's no carbs in those foods, right? But then maybe in the summer or springtime, there was access to berries and fruits and vegetables. And so they ate more of those plant-based foods that were higher in carbohydrates. So, there's times of feast and famine. And I feel like our bodies were meant to go in and out of ketosis. Now, here's the thing. I know people that have been doing keto strict for years and decades that are totally fine, totally healthy, because it's healthy being in a ketogenic state. And I know people with epilepsy that have severe epilepsy, they literally cannot eat carbohydrates because it could trigger a seizure.
Oh my God.
So they've been doing keto for decades now, because if they eat too many carbs, that could trigger a seizure, which is scary for them.
Right.
So it can be healthy. For me personally, I dip in and out of ketosis all the time, right? I use keto probably as my default mode 80% of the time, but I'm going to enjoy Sunday morning pancakes with my daughters, or go to Disneyland and partake of whatever. Like I'm not too strict all the time, but I do feel great on keto because my brain is sharper. The mental clarity is like through the roof. Plus, I'm not a slave to food, whereas before I was eating 6-7 small meals a day, like all day long.
Right
now, my digestion is better because I eat once or twice a day, and I'm able to do podcasts. I'm able to do speaking engagements. I'm able to write books and write blog posts and create content. And I'm eating once or twice a day, and it feels amazing.
Yeah, super easy. What are your thoughts on Bulletproof Coffee?
Oh, yeah. So Dave Asprey, I have been on his podcast before, and I've been a big fan of Bulletproof Coffee for a while, but it's changed over the years. In the beginning, I was doing so much fat, like butter, coconut oil, and it worked great. Like it definitely worked great for a while, but now I've kind of lowered it down because it's so calorically dense.
Yeah.
So my line of supplements, not to make a plug, but I use the MCT oil powder, which is about 40 calories per scoop.
Yeah.
And it's flavored. It's vanilla flavored. It mixes really well with coffee. So it's sweetened with stevia, and it's keto friendly, but it's not a ton of fat like you would get from butter and coconut oil. So that's kind of my version of how I've evolved it over the years. Cool. I don't do super focus. I don't focus too much on the heavy fat content.
Right. You mentioned pancakes on Sundays. Do you have a favorite cheat meal?
Yeah, for me, it's probably pizza. I'll be totally honest with you. I love a good like deep dish pizza, or even like a thin crust is really good. But for me, it's every once in a while. What I've noticed training for my 100-miler is after my long runs, if I have a cheat meal every time after I do a 20 or 30-mile run, the inflammation and the recovery the inflammation's up and the recovery is slower.
Right.
So if I eat keto afterwards or fast a little bit after my long runs, my recovery is so much better. I can get back into a longer run sooner than like having to take days off. So I do enjoy it every once in a while, but it does have consequences. Right. And this is what I want to drive home is that there's no good or bad food. I don't want people to think I'm good if I eat good food. I'm bad if I eat bad food. We label that as humans when in reality, food is just food, but there are good or bad consequences. So you know what you're getting into. Like, hey, I know dairy and gluten are going to do this to me, but is it worth it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Right.
Yeah, I'm allergic to gluten, but once a year I'll have Porto's Bakery. It's a bakery in Los Angeles. So once a ye's my face breaks out. I feel terrible afterwards, but once a year,
it's worth it. Yeah, it's worth it.
For sure. What's something that's true for you that no one else agrees with you on?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say no one else agrees with me on, but very few people do in the fitness industry. So I'm trying to bring empathy to the fitness industry because I feel people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So here's the hard part though. It's hard to sell a fitness program that focuses on self-love, the mental emotional side. People are like, how's meditation going to help me get a six-pack? Like I want to get a six-pack. Yeah. So what I've learned is people love the sexy bait, like the hook of the story of like, hey, get a six-pack doing keto and this is the diet. Like, that's what people are attracted to because that's the way our society is. So what I do is I put that stuff up front, but then on the backside, it's all about empathy, the mental and emotional side. So I'm talking about meditation. I'm talking about positive affirmations, a gratitude list, journaling every single day. And I tie that into a healthy, fit lifestyle because that's the stuff that's going to create it into a lifestyle instead of another diet mentality that people get stuck in. So I would say no one, like I'm the only one that believes that, but very few people. And that's kind of what I'm trying to bring to the fitness industry and shake it up is, hey, let's start with empathy first. and see if that makes a difference instead of fat shaming and making people feel less than about their bodies, and they're only of value or successful if they get a certain body type.
Right. I love that. It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, starting with like a sexy hook first and then bring them over to like self-development.
Yeah.
I used to be in the dating advice industry, and a lot of these dating coaches, they would use hooks like, learn how to flirt with women this weekend.
Yeah.
But then once you get into their programs, they're like, okay, listen, guys, we just use that as a hook. You need to develop self-respect and self-love and really respect everybody. And you need to work on your own confidence. I was like, that's I really like that. Who's one of your heroes in the fitness world?
Yeah, that's a good question. A hero in the fitness world. There's a lot of people, because there's the fitness world we think of as like just these bodybuilders or physique competitors, like people with nice bodies. But for me, it's more so of like a wellness, a holistic approach. And one of my mentors, I guess, would be Sean Stevenson, is the host of the Model Health Show podcast, one of the top 5 iTunes fitness podcasts out there. And then also, to be honest, like The Rock, in a weird way, because he's so real and authentic.
Oh my God, yeah.
Vulnerable with his audience, that, you know, even though his mentality, like how hardcore he is working out, I'm not that hardcore, but like I respect that. And so, yeah, I would consider him like a hero in that sense. But also David Goggins, very inspiring, motivating, like, like achieving the impossible, like all the time. Like he just makes it seem possible for someone like me, that even for me, I have self-limiting beliefs and I need to be pushed.
Right. I love that. Are you writing another book?
Not yet, but soon.
What's the next one going to be?
So Fit to Fat to Fit is my first one, right? That one became a New York Times bestseller. And that's a great one to kind of learn more about mindset of my whole journey of Fit to Fat to Fit, what I learned. Complete Keto, it's a ketogenic approach, but more so with a focus on the mental and emotional side. Yeah. So that's why it's different than other keto books, is because along with the meal plans in there, there's meditation, positive affirmations, and a gratitude list you do every single day. Right. My next book, I can't really talk about the details because it's gonna open up a can of worms of like, okay, this is gonna happen. There's just know that in 2020, towards the end of 2020, I'm gonna be starting a journey that's gonna blow people away. It's gonna be it's gonna be mind blowing for a lot of people. So that's happening soon. So once that happens, the book will start, and it will be similar to a fitness book, you know, the sexy hook up front, but more mindset, more self-love on the back end to help people live it as a lifestyle, but with a huge, unique twist to help motivate people.
I love it, man. I'm excited. For our listeners who are excited about this, where can they find you? Where can they follow you so they can stay updated on this?
Yeah, super simple. All of my stuff is branded Fit #2 Fat #2 Fit. Like Fit to Fat to Fit, Google it. It's my website, my podcast, my first book, all my social media handles. It's all one. This is the same.
I love it, man. I love it. Cool. So fit2fat2fit.com. I also saw something on there. What's Keto School program?
Yeah. So so during quarantine, you know, obviously a lot of people were stuck at home. So I started producing at-home workouts. Yeah. And I wanted to make it accessible to everyone so they could have it all in one convenient place. Instead of following me on YouTube or Facebook Live or Instagram Live, like and trying to find these workouts, I put it all into one program where you have all my at-home workouts in one place, plus all my keto recipes. So if you want simple, quick, easy keto recipes, hundreds of them, and then also keto content, Q&A, answering all your questions. If you want to learn how to do keto the right way, it's a subscription platform. It's like $8.95 a month, and people can go find all that content in one convenient place. And each month we update it with new content every single month, so that you're getting delivered new content to help you live this healthy lifestyle.
I love it, man. I love it.
Thanks
hey guys,
so much.
So go to fit2fat2fit.com or just look up Fit to Fat to Fit. You can find Drew Manning everywhere if you type that in. Cool. And we're going to jump into our behind the scenes Q&A. So as far as the public interview goes, thanks for joining us, man.
You're welcome.
Want to see what the top experts have to say behind the scenes? Just go to modernbiotechradio.com and you'll get instant access to every behind the scenes interview for free. Now, these interviews are not for the public, so please don't share. But if you'd like to pull back the curtain with me and learn what secrets they reveal, just go to modernbiotechradio.com and get instant access to these interviews for free. Again, that's modernbiotechradio.com. modernbiotechradio.com. If you'd like to learn the best kept secrets that they can't share publicly but allowed me to share in private, just go to modernbiotechradio.com and get instant access to all of these interviews completely free. I'll see you there.